And today we're talking about Psalm chapter 7. I know what you're thinking. It's the end of the week where we're talking about Proverbs. I should be talking about Proverbs 31. That ain't happening. Mostly because that's what's expected. And come on now. But secondly, because nobody really talks about Psalm chapter 7, or not Psalm, Proverbs. Proverbs chapter 7. More coffee. I don't think I've ever heard a sermon on Proverbs chapter 7. Proverbs chapter 7 doesn't get a whole lot of love because it's a whole chapter about adultery. And you know me, in these encouraging morning chat times, I want to talk about things that aren't encouraging, I don't know. But it's stuff that interests me and I think is necessary for the health and the benefit of the body. So in the book of the Bible dedicated to wisdom, Solomon has spent an entire chapter talking about the problem of falling prey to the wiles of an adulteress. And that is Proverbs chapter 7. He started the discourse a little bit into 6, but the bulk of it is chapter 7. And that's not all. There's a bunch of Proverbs included in Proverbs, the little couplets that talk about, good morning from Kenya. Well, hello, Miss Debbie. That's very interesting that you guys were able to hop on here. We were talking about this going into it, and you guys were unsure what kind of connectivity you'd have. It seems like you got a lot. So good stuff. Hopefully everything's going well. Hopefully no mosquitoes have gotten in your net. So, as we were saying, there's Proverbs included in Proverbs, and a bunch of those little couplets, those little one-liners, as Aaron put it, about adultery and its devastating consequences. We're going to read a little bit of Proverbs chapter 7. We're going to start in verse 18 and go to 27. And he says, "Come, let us drink our fill of love until morning. Let us delight ourselves with caresses, for my husband is not at home. He has gone on a long journey. He has taken a bag of money with him. At the full moon he will come home. With her many persuasions she entices him." This is a young man on the street that she has lured into her trap. "With her flattering lips she seduces him." Good morning, Janice. "Suddenly he follows her as an ox goes to the slaughter, or as one in fetters to the discipline of a fool, until an arrow pierces his liver. As a bird hastens to the snare, so he does not know that it will cost him his life. Now therefore, my sons, listen to me and pay attention to the words of my mouth. Do not let your heart turn aside to her ways. Do not stray into her paths, for many are the victims she has cast down, and numerous are all her slain. Her house is the way to Sheol, descending to the chambers of death." So, absolutely, Miss Caitlin, we will continue to pray for your allergies. So according to Solomon, according to the wisest man who ever walked the earth, it would seem that adultery is a serious problem. It's almost like this was written today, right? From the narrative, the way this is written in a kind of almost parable form, we're meant to read this as a young single guy being lured into an adulterous affair by a married woman whose husband's gone on a long journey that she assures him he's not going to be back for a while. Everything is safe. Oh, bummer. All right, well, thanks for signs of life and letting us know that you're here. Let us know how the trip's going if you can, as much as you can hear. So, Proverbs is also written from the point of view of a father to his son. So that would explain the young single guy approach to this cautionary tale. The guy talking to his young son. And this isn't making some sweeping generality that it's always the married woman that is the cause of infidelity. So let's not jump to that conclusion, because we know that that's false. From this narrative, it is better to understand this adulterous woman as a counterpoint to the woman wisdom, because wisdom has been personified as a woman within the Proverbs, and you'll see that in the next few verses very clearly, because she'll stand on the street corner and shout and call to people, "Come and purchase wisdom from me." So now we have two competing anthropomorphized female concepts, wisdom and adultery. And that immediately puts adultery in the category of foolishness, because those are your competing categories in the Proverbs. What is wisdom and what is foolishness? And so this category of anti-wisdom is now populated with adultery. Adultery runs contrary to wisdom because it is the way to death. Entanglement with adultery, the woman adultery, this personified, anthropomorphized concept, is certain death. And that's not just because her husband comes home. We know from the Sermon on the Mount that to look with lust is to commit adultery. You don't have to go into that person's home or do anything. You've already done that in your inner being. You've already committed that sin just in your thoughts. And Romans 6:23 reminds us that the wages we earn with our sin are death, death, and more death. We are well aware of the pervasiveness of pornography in America. It's invaded our lives and ensnared so many men and women. It's everywhere in every form. The evangelistic advertisers for pornography are better at reaching people than Christians are. Absolutely, Sean. We will be praying for that. So these evangelistic advertisers for pornography have become all things to all people, from widely available pornography online to romance novels to the mature content in our shows and our movies to the grooming in what our children are watching and being taught. Sexual immorality is everywhere. And this is where we purchase the wisdom from God and hide his word in our hearts that we might not sin against us, sin against him, sin against ourselves also. That's another Pauline thing we'll talk about later. Many of us have been fools in this area in one way or another. It is only by the grace of God in Jesus Christ that we are given new life instead of the death that we earned as our wages. And wisdom, as we saw yesterday, comes from the fear of the Lord. Fearing God requires obedience. Let us run from the woman adultery, purchase from the woman wisdom, and obey the Lord in purity. And that is our admonishment from the word this morning.